Well, were you lying to me back then?
Oh, this is intimidation, or oh, this is another form of abuse.
What helped you more, my empathy or my distance?
Empathy is more effective from other addicts, but getting me to actually change was the distance.
Welcome to The Couple Cure. Here's Jay and Laurie Pyatt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Couple Cure. I'm Jay.
And I'm Laurie. And there were times during our healing where I thought, I'm doing the things they say will help him, but I feel like I'm only helping him stay stuck. So today I have questions for Jay on the topic of, did I make it easier for you to stay stuck? And I've got 10 questions today, starting with, was there anything I did that made it easier for you to lie or hide your addiction?
The time that I was using, there was distance. I was on the road a lot. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it was kind of a combination of the distractions of life and the distractions of my job. I don't think it was really anything you did that allowed me to keep lying. Nothing that I'm thinking back on.
I'll have a little bit more specific questions for you in a bit, but I do remember one thing that I think directly led to more chances to act out, and that was I worked. I had worked at a job that had at least one evening meeting a month, and he said because the whole house was empty at that point, that's one of the times where he would act out at home because he would not act out at home if there were people at home. So here I was trying to have a life and trying to get a job, and you don't remember, huh?
I know.
Well, were you lying to me back then when you said I wouldn't act out when you were home?
Oh no, I didn't act out when you were home. I just don't remember acting out on those nights you were gone. But I don't have a catalog of any of that.
Yeah, it's kind of some of the only times I was ever gone, or if I'd go out with a friend or something.
Yeah, there was the trip you went on to see your friend graduate, but I had opportunity. I don't remember that being like oh yeah, she's gone tonight, I can act out, because I'd probably acted out at work that day, so it didn't really matter. So
another thing that I did, quote unquote, was I let him go on business trips. Nothing I can do to stop that, obviously, but I do remember specifically, because you brought up business trips, there toward the end of his acting out, I remember telling him, you seem excited to go on these business trips. Like I've noticed the last few times, you're like, there was just like this happy energy that he had. So, number 2, did you ever make a conscious decision to depend on my niceness or forgetfulness by waiting things out?
I kind of felt like I could give you enough information that you weren't going to press, that you weren't going to dig or call me out. But I don't, again, remember counting on it or thinking, oh yeah, she's just such a soft touch or anything like that. And you were willing to let things go either because you had other things on your plate or the distractions of life. Mm-hmm. And again, not really counting on it. We've talked about how confident I was in my ability to lie or ability to hide things. So,
okay. When it comes to forgetfulness, I was thinking about that the other day. I was actually on with a client. I was talking about this specific thing and how we had a male client say on one of our 2-to-2 calls, I just know that, if I mess up and I give it enough time, she will forget about it. There is some truth to the phrase, time heals all wounds. Time may kind of heal a wound in the way that it doesn't make it so intense, such, an intense pain, but it does not heal the addict.
Right. If an addict is not pursuing recovery, he is pursuing addiction just by default. I think the truth of addiction is if he is not in active recovery, he is in default addiction of just waiting for something, he's not building or developing the skills he needs to stay sober. He's hoping that he's just not going to use again.
Yeah. So basically you're saying he's not keeping his guard up. He's not staying on guard.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever count on my forgiveness to stay hidden?
I felt like you would find out what had happened, and that would be the end of our relationship. Okay. That I wasn't counting on Forgiveness, I was assuming there wouldn't be any.
Okay. This brings up another question. Do you remember the time you guilt tripped me for not forgiving you?
Oh, yeah.
You do? Really?
Yeah, I remember, like, there's been 2 or 3 times that you've, like, the tables have been turned a little bit between the two of us where, like, you came to me and apologized for something, and I totally blew it. I just totally blew those, and yeah, guilt tripping for not forgiving me sounds like something I would have done.
Okay. I remember specifically only one time. You might have tried it a little bit after that, but pretty sure it was in the first couple years we were married. And, the Bible says you're supposed to forgive me. And I shut that mess down quick.
Yeah.
I was just like, are you seriously trying to say that my unforgiveness is worse than what you're doing? Like, clean it up. Clean up what you're doing. And, stop hurting me, and then I might be able to forgive you.
Right.
Was my inaction or forgetfulness something you actively counted on at any point?
No, I never thought any of that. It was just like, I'm just not going to get caught.
So this is a new question. You earlier had said you thought for sure if I get caught, that's going to be the end of it, but you were sure about your ability to not get caught.
Yep. I mean, again, that's the addict does not deal in reality. The delusion is that somehow I'm going to get away with all of this. Somehow it's all going to be okay. And one of these days I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be free of this and nobody needs to know anything.
But if she finds out about it.
But if she does find out about it, the world comes to a crashing end.
Okay. Jay was talking about, being very sure of his ability to get away with things. That can be part of the addiction. Like, I am just so good that nobody's going to find out about this. Even the hiding part, I know we've talked about that before. We had done some work with a coach who used to be a drug addict, and he said part of the addiction is the hiding, the secretiveness. The high for him started when he started mapping out how he was going to get to his next usage. So I think that's part of it. They call it deception delight, where some addicts pride themselves on being able to get away with it.
Right.
What signals did I send that said, I won't push or there won't be any real consequences for this? I think I know the answer to the second one.
I think the consequences might have just been historically there hadn't been real consequences between us.
That's what I was thinking too.
I wasn't thinking, I can shut this down. I just had my way of showing up in relationship that shut down conversation.
Okay. And that's the next question, number 6. I'm not usually afraid of conflict, but did you intentionally try to make the fights extra bad so I'd eventually stop talking about it?
Yeah, I could explode because I wasn't physically contacting you. I wasn't, I didn't see all the stuff of like, oh, this is intimidation, or, oh, this is another form of abuse. Because other fights I'd been in, they get loud, I didn't know there was another way to fight. Might be the best way to put it. And I didn't know how badly I was crossing certain lines at the time.
Had you previously learned that if, kind of yelling about something didn't help you get your way or help people to back off, then, like escalating, like had that already been something you recognized?
Again, not consciously. I had practice in escalating in other relationships, with people in my past, and it seemed to work for me. So I just thought that was part of arguing or part of that.
Wow.
Didn't know that it was unhealthy, didn't know that it was abusive.
Because I had that, especially in a certain relationship in my past, and I could track it at an early age, probably 11. And that's when I was like, hey, I need to go to counseling. Please take me to counseling. But I could track, we'd start off here, and then it would go here, and then it would go here, and it would just keep escalating. And then after that, we could talk about it. And that's probably why I did not get space when he started escalating at first. It's like, this I've seen can lead to resolution. It's just with Jay, it never really did. Over time I realized, no, it's just the abusive dance, where he did listen and he did make promises, but those promises never, led to anything real.
Right.
So Number 7, were you ever relieved by how quickly I accepted a lie?
I would say yes. I didn't like getting into fights. I didn't like getting into ugly discussions or having to confess or any of that. So the quicker it moved from, we're having a conversation I don't want to have, to, we're kind of back to status quo, that always felt good.
Number 8, did I ever console you when you knew in your heart I should have confronted you?
I don't remember that being a thing.
Okay. I do remember consoling you. It was when you first started saying, it's because of this stuff from my past that, and you should feel, kind of this implication like you should feel bad about that and you should console me. So I did. In writing this question out, I thought, that's the only time I can remember consoling him in a very direct way. And I can imagine that inner Jay was like, yes, this is right and true and good that you should console me, because I truly believe that that's the reason that I have this issue. So I don't think you ever would have thought, he really should be confronting me right now.
Yeah. All addicts have, as far as I've ever known, all of them have crappy pasts. And they're choosing to camp on that crappy past as an excuse for staying in their addiction. Instead of dealing with it, instead of moving on. And so, yes, there is a place to say, I'm sorry you had a crappy past. Lots of people do, and they don't make other people's lives worse as a result. But I did, and I kept looking for some way to process that. All these tools were laid out in front of me, and I kept picking the one that just felt normal to me,
Right.
which was addiction, instead of trying something new.
Right. Number 9, and we've talked about this one before in other episodes, but what helped you more, my empathy or my distance?
As far as getting me to change, it was the distance. The distance was the first time that I really recognized the consequence, right? That's where I began to really recognize the consequence. I think empathy is more effective from other addicts, but as far as getting me to actually change, it was the distance that got my attention.
And I want to be clear about a couple things. Jay saying getting me to change. This was helping him change in the way he said he wanted to change. The second part is consequences. And a lot of addicts will hear that and go, that's wrong. We're talking natural consequences. We're talking when somebody hurts you, you back up. It's just what happens in relationships. You might not be used to it in your marriage or in your romantic relationship. You might not be used to it like with your parents. There is a truth to the fact that natural consequences can get a person's attention. And just look in your own life. What happens when somebody hurts you repeatedly? Typically, addicts back up.
Yeah.
You might need to get help, which hopefully your wife is. You might need to get permanent distance, but you still take care of yourself because you can only take so much damage.
Right. Your healthy backing away, I know I misperceived many times, but I also know that other addicts will misperceive as stuff they grew up around versus this is a consequence. So
You mean a natural consequence.
right.
Were you ever happy when people in our helping community told me to back off? Because I'll tell you what I feel like happened. I feel like there was a side of you that's like, yeah, you big meanie.
Yeah,
You need to be nice to me.
I would echo that. I think the addict in me definitely was like, yeah, I need somebody to be nice to me. I need somebody to understand me. Another addict is probably going to be better at saying, yeah, man, I get it. I know why we do some of the dumb things we do. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it healthy. And so, yeah, there was a part of me that when other people would say, yeah, you need to cut him some slack, there was that little kid in me going, yeah, tell her to back off.
And for a while, I did for the first 15 years. And even then, it was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, look at your own marriage, I don't want a marriage like that. Look at the marriages of the people you're giving that advice to. It's not working.
Right.
And I'd seen it. I never once saw where that advice led to a happy marriage ever.
Right. Pseudo peace, which we've talked about before. Silence is not peace necessarily.
All right. So my questions for y'all. For the betrayed partners, were you ever pressured to give grace or to forgive? And what did it lead to? For the addicts, what is something you heard that partners of addicts do that make it easier for the addicts to use? Or what have you seen in your own life when it comes to this? All right.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you next time.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.